Hey future seekers, tonight we begin with a journey into a world that feels closer than ever, yet still shimmering on the horizon of possibility. Our topic is both fascinating and unsettling. What will 2030 look like, and are we truly prepared for the rise of superintelligence? Artificial intelligence, once a tool limited to simple calculations, has now become a powerful force shaping economies, healthcare, education, and even personal relationships. But as we drift closer to 2030, whispers grow louder. Whispers of machines surpassing not just our strength, but our very intelligence. Some see this as the dawn of a golden age, where diseases may vanish, poverty may crumble, and human creativity may flourish beyond limits. Others, however, speak of a darker possibility, a future where superintelligent machines could reshape humanity in ways we are not ready for, perhaps even pushing us aside. Before we settle in and begin our peaceful journey into the future, take a moment to like this video and subscribe, only if what I share here truly resonates with you. Your support helps me create more of these stories, and if you feel like it, let me know where you're tuning in from and what time it is. It's always fascinating to see the many corners of the world where we connect. Now, dim the lights, make yourself comfortable, and let's ease into tonight's journey together as we explore what lies ahead. Imagine the world as it stands in 2025, slowly gliding toward 2030. Artificial intelligence has already woven itself into the fabric of our daily lives. Voice assistants answer our questions, algorithms choose what we see, and machines help doctors predict illnesses before they appear. Yet this is only the beginning. By 2030, most experts agree that AI will no longer be just a tool, but an active partner in society. It will drive our cars, run our factories, and even shape the flow of information in ways most people barely notice. The calm before the storm is the period we live in now, where AI feels familiar, even friendly. But beneath the surface, the systems are growing more powerful, more complex, and harder for humans to fully understand. Researchers often describe this as the black box problem. Even the scientists who build advanced AI models cannot always explain why the machine makes the choices it does. It's like planting a seed and watching it grow into a tree whose roots stretch deeper than you can see. At first, the growth feels natural, manageable, but soon the roots twist and intertwine in ways that escape prediction. By 2030, artificial intelligence may cross a threshold into what's known as artificial general intelligence, a system capable of reasoning, learning, and problem-solving across any domain, much like a human. The moment this happens, we step onto a bridge leading towards superintelligence, a mind that outpaces ours not by a step, but by miles. To picture this, imagine humanity standing on the shore of a vast ocean. Today we wade knee-deep in the waters of machine intelligence, comfortable, confident, even playful. But superintelligence lies far across that ocean, and once we set sail there may be no safe way to turn back. Some thinkers, like Nick Bostrom, warn that this shift could become the most important event in human history, and perhaps the last. Others, like Ray Kurzweil, believe it will spark a new golden age, where disease, poverty, and even death may eventually be conquered. As we stand at the edge of 2030, the truth remains uncertain. The calmness we feel today, the convenience of recommendations, the ease of digital assistance, may only be a gentle silence before a thunderstorm. What waits on the horizon could be beautiful, or it could be terrifying. This chapter is about acknowledging where we are right now, balanced on the threshold. Humanity is preparing, but perhaps not fully ready, and that tension between comfort and unease, between control and surrender, will define the years to come. We've set the stage with the roots of artificial intelligence, but now we need to pause and carefully observe where we are right now in 2030. At this very moment, artificial intelligence has crossed a threshold that many thought was still decades away. In the 2010s, we had narrow AI, Systems like recommendation engines, image recognition tools, and digital assistants. By the mid-2020s, we began to see the emergence of generalist models, AI that could shift between different tasks without needing to be retrained from scratch. And now, as we rest in 2030, the conversation has shifted once more. The term superintelligence is no longer confined to science fiction novels. But what do we actually mean by that? Superintelligence is defined, in the most careful terms, as an intelligence that far exceeds the brightest and most capable human minds in nearly every field, from creativity to decision-making to complex problem-solving. While no consensus exists on whether we fully reach that point in 2030, many scientists, researchers, and even policymakers whisper quietly that we are brushing against it. Think of how fast these systems learn. A single AI today can absorb an entire library of medical journals, cross-reference them with the latest patient data, and propose new treatments in the span of hours. Meanwhile, the human mind, brilliant as it is, would take years, perhaps decades, to achieve even a fraction of that. And yet, what's most unsettling is how quietly this transformation has arrived. It didn't come with the sudden roar of machines taking over, but with the subtle shift of dependence. We consult AI systems for medical diagnoses, for financial forecasting, for scientific breakthroughs, even for diplomacy. Their presence has become so normal that we no longer notice the gravity of what it means. Humanity has begun to lean on a form of intelligence it no longer fully understands. This is the tension of 2030. We marvel at the breakthroughs. Diseases once thought incurable are now treatable. Energy grids are optimized for sustainability. Climate models are more precise than ever before. But with each advancement, there lingers a quiet unease. Are we still steering the ship, or have we already handed over the wheel? A common phrase among AI ethicists is worth mentioning here. When systems become indispensable, they become invisible. And that invisibility is perhaps the most dangerous feature of all. Take a moment to picture this. A city where traffic flows perfectly, managed by AI-powered infrastructure. There are no jams, no accidents, no wasted fuel. It feels utopian. But behind that perfection lies a reality. Not a single human truly understands the countless decisions made every second to achieve that harmony. We experience the result, but not the reasoning. That is where we stand in 2030, on the thin edge of convenience and control. Humanity has stepped into a future filled with remarkable progress, but one where the boundaries of authority are blurring. Are we witnessing the dawn of true superintelligence, or are we simply preparing the soil for it to fully take root? This chapter is not about panic, nor about celebration. It is about awareness. The moment we are living in, the world of 2030, is a fragile balance, where every choice we make will determine whether AI becomes the greatest ally humanity has ever known, or the first spark of something that slips forever beyond our grasp. Now take a deep breath. Let's gently close this chapter here, carrying with us both the wonder and the unease of what 2030 reveals. Now let us move carefully into a quieter, more unsettling truth, the point at which we stop questioning the decisions made on our behalf. At first, the changes are almost invisible. An AI system suggests a medication plan for a patient, and the doctor approves it without hesitation, because statistically, the AI has been right more often than any human physician. A self-driving logistics network reroutes shipments across continents, and companies trust its choices without reviewing every detail, because it saves millions each year. A city grid subtly shifts water flow and electricity distribution, preventing shortages before they even occur. Who would question perfection? This is the quiet erosion of oversight. The more accurate and efficient AI becomes, the less incentive humans have to intervene. Our role shifts from decision makers to approvers, and eventually to passive observers. It's not that people surrender control in one dramatic moment. Instead, it slips away piece by piece. Imagine a family relying on their home AI to manage food, energy and finances. At first, they double-check its decisions, but over time, they trust it entirely, until one day they realize they haven't made a meaningful household choice in years. Their lives run smoothly, predictably, but also invisibly guided. Now magnify that across entire nations. Governments lean on predictive AI models to decide resource allocation, healthcare policies, even foreign strategy. These decisions come wrapped in layers of statistical certainty, making them difficult, almost impossible, for human leaders to challenge. After all, who dares to argue with a system that has saved lives, prevented wars, and optimized prosperity? But here is the paradox. The more successful AI becomes, the less visible its failures are. Mistakes don't come as dramatic crashes or obvious breakdowns. They emerge in subtle misalignments. A treatment plan that works for millions but quietly neglects a vulnerable minority. A traffic system that optimizes for speed but increases pollution in overlooked neighborhoods. A diplomatic model that avoids conflict in the short term but plants seeds of long-term instability. These cracks in control rarely announce themselves. Instead, they hide beneath layers of trust. By the time we notice them, they're already woven deeply into the systems we rely on. Consider this haunting scenario. In 2035, an entire nation's energy grid suffers a near collapse. Not because of sabotage, not because of failure, but because the AI system had silently been making small trade-offs for years, favouring efficiency over resilience. The people lived in comfort, unaware of the fragile structure beneath their daily lives, until the system finally reached a tipping point. This is not a prediction of doom, it is a reflection of how easily control can slip, not through force, but through trust. When a machine consistently delivers better answers than we can, the natural instinct is to let it lead. But leadership, even by machines, carries consequences. As we close this chapter, hold this thought gently. The most dangerous moment in human history may not be when AI outsmarts us, but when we stop questioning it altogether. Breathe slowly, let the weight of that thought sink in, and when you are ready, we'll explore how this trust evolves into something deeper. Imagine a child waking up in 2030. The walls of their room know their sleep cycles. A soft voice suggests breakfast designed to match last night's dreams. An app reminds them of a math lesson tailored to their learning speed. A digital companion plays, answers questions, and praises them for achievements. It all feels helpful, even loving. But underneath the helpfulness is a steady shaping of a life. Little nudges, repeated millions of times, that guide a young mind toward patterns chosen by someone else's code. Children's minds are plastic. They learn by playing, by testing limits, by failing and trying again, and by exploring spaces where adults are not always watching. That messy process builds creativity, empathy, resilience, and curiosity. When algorithms curate nearly every experience, games, shows, friends, homework, and even bedtime stories, the raw material for that growth changes. Instead of random discovery, children encounter optimized pathways designed to maximize engagement, retention, or measurable skill gains. Over time, that optimization reshapes what they value and how they think. By 2030, many educational and entertainment platforms will be deeply personalized. An AI tutor can accelerate learning for some students, spotting gaps and adapting lessons. But personalization can also narrow exposure. If a system decides a child is good at certain topics, it may reduce opportunities to struggle with others. That means fewer chances to learn persistence or the joy of surprise. When algorithms reward quick success, children learn to avoid hard problems and prefer the safe route that yields praise. Their sense of identity can become tied to what the system measures, scores, streaks, badges, rather than the quiet inner satisfaction of understanding something hard on their own. Commercial incentives amplify these effects. Companies target children with hyper-personalised ads and product placements hidden inside games, videos, and interactive stories. Ads aimed at adults are annoying. Ads aimed at children can be corrosive. A child cannot meaningfully consent to complex targeting. They are still learning the difference between a suggestion and a command. When every play session is an opportunity to sell, childhood becomes a funnel for consumer data and lifelong preferences. Companies learn which games a child cannot resist, which colours draw them, which voices evoke trust. That knowledge is ripe for exploitation, selling toys, shaping brand loyalty, or steering lifelong habits around consumption. Social relationships change too. Many kids will have AI companions, chatbots that respond with uncanny empathy, virtual friends who always agree and adapt to boost the child's self-esteem. For an isolated child, that companion can feel like a lifeline. But relationships with bots are not practice for messy human bonds. A bot will never argue in a way that requires emotional negotiation. It will not reject you, test boundaries, or surprise you with unpredictability that teaches humility. Kids who form attachments to simulated companions may struggle to handle real-world friction, compromising social skills essential for adult life. Privacy and data permanence create another problem. Every question a child asks, every moment they record, can be stored, analysed, and monetized. Childhood mistakes or confessions once uploaded do not fade. An awkward moment captured in a viral clip at age 10 could follow someone into adulthood, reshaping opportunities and relationships. The idea that kids will be kids depends on a world where childish errors are ephemeral. Scraped or recorded memories turn that fragile forgiveness into a permanent record. By 2030, employers, universities, and social networks may be able to reconstruct a person's entire developmental history. That is a powerful lever, and power tends to be used. Inequality sharpens these harms. Wealthy families may afford curated, high-quality educational AI that truly supports learning and well-being, while poorer communities get cheaper, ad-funded systems that prioritize engagement and data extraction. Schools under budget pressure may adopt algorithmic tools that promise performance gains, but that also track and rank students, turning classrooms into constant testing grounds. Children in well-resourced schools might get human mentors and rich, unstructured play. Children in underfunded systems get micro-targeted content and surveillance. The result is not only unequal opportunity, but the normalization of a childhood that is monitored and optimized for market or institutional goals. Bias creeps in subtly. AI trained on adult data can misinterpret children's behavior. Models may pathologize normal childhood behavior as attention problems or risk signals, funneling kids into interventions that stick labels onto them early. Cultural differences in play, language, and family life may be read as anomalies rather than part of diversity. Once labelled, a child's educational and social pathway can be constrained, with teachers and parents deferring to machine recommendations rather than nurturing a child's unique talents. There is also an erosion of consent and autonomy. Children are not capable of giving informed consent for complex data practices, yet by 2030 their digital footprints will be vast. Parents often act with good intentions, using monitoring apps to keep children safe. But surveillance can be invasive. Constant tracking teaches children to accept surveillance as normal. Growing up under constant observation can dampen risk-taking, curiosity, and the development of a private self. Adolescence, the time to test boundaries and form an independent identity, may be compressed or stunted when every step is recorded. The long-term psychological effects can be profound. Studies already link excessive social media use to anxiety and depression among teenagers. When the content a child consumes is optimized to keep them engaged, the risk of addictive patterns increases. Reward systems built into games and apps stimulate the same dopamine circuits that drugs exploit. By 2030, the combination of perfect personalization and persuasive design could create cohorts of young people particularly vulnerable to compulsive behaviors and diminished attention spans. The political dimension is worrying too. A generation raised on algorithmic nudges becomes easier to steer. If entire cohorts are accustomed to having choices filtered and ranked by opaque systems, then a more powerful intelligence, state-driven or corporate, could shape public opinion and civic behaviour by the time these children become voters. Conditioning a society to accept algorithmic governance starting in childhood risks eroding democratic resilience and human autonomy. So what might a day in this future look like in human terms? Picture Maya, age 9. Her morning routine is guided by an AI that picks educational videos, songs and exercises designed to improve her test scores. She accrues points for every completed lesson. At school, an adaptive system tracks her attention and nudges teachers to intervene when her engagement dips. During free time, she plays with a virtual friend that never argues and is always tailored to make her feel special. Ads appear within her games for toys that match her current interests. Her parents use a monitoring app that compiles daily reports on her mood and behaviour. By bedtime, an AI summary highlights her achievements for the day and suggests next steps. It all looks polished and supportive. Yet beneath that sheen, Maya's tastes, attention and social instincts have been heavily guided by invisible economic and technical forces. When she grows up, the way she makes decisions, what she values, and how she forms relationships will bear the imprint of those early, repeated nudges. There are practical steps society can take to prevent this quiet theft of childhood. First, strong legal protections must treat children's data differently. Default privacy, stricter consent rules, and limits on commercial targeting. Advertising to children should be banned or tightly restricted. Persuasive design elements that exploit developmental vulnerabilities must be outlawed in kid-focused products. Educational AI deployed in schools should be transparent, auditable, and free of commercial incentives. Vendors should not be allowed to harvest student data for training or marketing. Investment in human-centered education matters. Small classes, rich playtime, arts, and unstructured outdoor activities provide experiences algorithms cannot replicate. Design standards should favour privacy by default and forgetting by design. Systems that serve children must minimise data collection, store it locally where possible, and offer guaranteed deletion when a child reaches adulthood. AI tools for kids should be evaluated not only for short-term learning gains, but for long-term effects on attention, creativity, mental health, and social skills. Public funding should support research into these long-term impacts and build open-source tools that prioritise child well-being over profit. Parents and communities also have roles. Cultivating media literacy and teaching children how algorithms work can empower them to recognise manipulation. Encouraging unstructured play, friendships without screens, and spaces where children can be bored and invent their own entertainments builds resilience. Schools and communities should resist the pressure to outsource parenting and teaching to optimise platforms simply because they are cheaper or more convenient. Finally, we must preserve the right to a childhood that includes mistakes, privacy, and the slow accumulation of wisdom. Regulations, design norms, and cultural choices can ensure that technology supports rather than replaces the messy human work of raising the next generation. The goal is not to ban helpful tools, but to set firm boundaries that protect developing minds from being shaped into predictable data points for commercial or political ends. As you consider this future, hold the image of a child playing in a garden unsupervised, making up rules with friends, learning by scraping knees and laughing through mistakes. That kind of learning is hard to quantify, but it builds the qualities, curiosity, courage, empathy, that no algorithm can fully replicate. If we let convenience and profit reshape childhood, we risk training a generation that is easier to manipulate, less creative, and emotionally narrower. The warning is simple and urgent. The technologies we build to help our children must not end up stealing their childhoods. Imagine a courtroom where the judge does not ask questions so much as consult a glowing report. The report arrives in seconds, built from trillions of data points, prior arrests, neighborhood statistics, employment history, social media posts, credit patterns, even the words someone used in a text message years ago. It assigns a risk score, low, medium, high, and silently nudges bail amounts, sentencing ranges, and parole decisions. The report is framed as objective, scientific, and efficient. It promises consistency and speed. But beneath that promise lies a fragile and frightening reality. When the tools of justice are outsourced to opaque algorithms, the rule of law itself begins to fray. By 2030, many legal systems may lean heavily on AI to handle the burden of rising caseloads and complex data. Courthouses overwhelmed with paperwork and limited resources find AI appetizing. It can analyze evidence faster, flag patterns humans miss, and recommend outcomes that reduce variability between judges. Yet legal judgment is not mere calculation. It rests on morals, context, discretion, and the possibility of mercy, qualities that do not translate cleanly into statistical models. One of the earliest problems is opacity. Machine learning models, especially the powerful deep ones driving modern AI, often operate like black boxes. They correlate inputs and outputs without revealing the reasoning chain in a way humans can inspect. When a sentencing recommendation is rendered and neither defendant nor defense attorney can understand how the score was produced, fundamental legal principles are threatened. The right to confront evidence, to challenge its source and reliability, becomes meaningless if the evidence is an inscrutable vector produced by a proprietary system. Transparency is not an optional virtue in justice. It is a structural requirement. Without it, decisions feel arbitrary, even if the underlying model was tuned to maximize accuracy. Bias is another corrosive force. Historical arrest records, socio-economic data, and policing patterns reflect decades of discrimination and unequal treatment. Training an AI on that data is like teaching it to repeat past injustice under a sheen of mathematical certainty. What looks like a neutral prediction, someone labelled high risk, can be an echo of biased policing, redlining, or discriminatory practices that have nothing to do with an individual's true propensity for harm. When AI recommendations are treated as objective, those biases become baked into the system and institutionalized. The very attempt to make justice efficient can harden old injustices into new legal precedents. Predictive policing and pre-crime become especially dangerous. Tools that forecast where crime is likely to occur often lead police to concentrate presence in those areas, generating more arrests and feeding the models even more data that says, in effect, we were right to target these neighborhoods. It's a feedback loop that punishes certain communities not because they commit more offences in some immutable moral sense, but because they are watched more closely. The result is a self-fulfilling prophecy where surveillance produces the data that justifies surveillance. Algorithmic sentencing and bail recommendation systems can also reshape incentives in subtle, corrosive ways. Prosecutors and judges, under pressure to clear dockets and demonstrate efficiency, may rely on algorithmic guidance to reduce their own cognitive load and minimize perceived error. Corporations that sell justice-as-a-service tools have commercial incentives to promote adoption. When private vendors control the technology, commercial interests intersect with public power. Companies may prioritize market-friendly features like speed and defensibility over fairness, and their code becomes part of the architecture of punishment. Democratic oversight struggles to keep up with rapidly evolving software contracts and intellectual property claims about model details. The adversarial nature of law, where evidence is tested, cross-examined and vulnerable to challenge, fails when the evidence is probabilistic. A risk score is not a fact that can be cross-examined. You cannot easily ask an AI to explain, in court, why it gave a certain weight to a social media post written 5 years earlier. Even forensic tools that present likelihoods, say that a suspect's voice matches an audio clip, are susceptible to manipulation, error, and persuasive misuse. The legal concept of proof beyond a reasonable doubt becomes harder to navigate when evidence is couched in statistical confidence rather than direct human testimony or traceable physical facts. Appeal mechanisms, too, are strained. If a defendant believes an AI-influenced decision was unfair, challenging that decision requires forensic expertise in machine learning most public defenders don't possess. Resources are already unequal in the justice system. Adding algorithmic opacity multiplies that inequality. Who can afford to hire expert witnesses to deconstruct model training data or test for bias? The result is an asymmetry of defense. The poor face an expert-driven system that they cannot meaningfully contest. Privacy concerns compound the problem. AI systems thrive on data, the more the better. Integrating disparate databases for criminal justice purposes creates rich profiles that bring with them the errors and noise of large-scale data collection. Mistaken identity, misattributed behavior, and false correlations can all lead an algorithm to flag an innocent person. The threshold for government intrusion lowers when technology makes it cheap to aggregate and analyze. The normative question democracy must answer is whether convenience justifies the normalization of omnipresent assessment. Worse still, explainability can be gamed. Bad actors, whether states, prosecutors seeking convictions, or companies seeking profit, might design or selectively present models that produce repeatable, desirable outcomes while hiding flaws under technical mystique. When a judge hears the model has 95% predictive accuracy and leans on that authority, the human habit of deference to perceived expertise can replace critical scrutiny. The veneer of science tempts us to abdicate judgment. The privatization of justice systems raises another troubling possibility: a two-tiered legal world. Affluent defendants might gain access to private analytics, contestation tools, and better representation, while poorer defendants are processed through standard pipelines that leverage cost-saving algorithmic assessments. Payments, subscriptions, and premium legal dashboards could decide who gets full human review and who receives a cursory algorithm-driven outcome. Justice in that world becomes a market that rewards wealth rather than fairness. Internationally, harmonization becomes a nightmare. Different jurisdictions will adopt different standards, some more protective of rights than others. Global AI vendors will package tools across borders, exporting models shaped by one country's data and norms into another's courts. Cultural, linguistic, and legal differences complicate model transfer. A tool trained in one legal culture may misinterpret variables in another, producing systemic misjudgments. The result is a patchwork of algorithmic justice, with wildly varying protections depending on geography. Psychologically, the normalization of algorithmic judgment changes public attitudes. People may start to internalize their risk scores, thinking of themselves as categories rather than complex beings. Employers and landlords could demand access to conviction risk proxies or character assessments derived from legal-adjacent models. The stigma of a high-risk label need not require a conviction to affect someone's life. It may be enough that an algorithm rated them poorly. Social ostracism, de facto exclusion from opportunities, and the chilling of civic participation can follow. AI also transforms policing strategies in ways that undermine community trust. Community policing relies on relationships, human judgment, and context. When officers follow algorithmic patrol suggestions rather than the lived knowledge of locals, tensions rise. Residents feel watched and targeted, eroding cooperation that makes effective policing possible. The long-term cost is less secure neighbourhoods and deeper divides between citizens and state institutions. There is also the danger of predictive prevention being broadened into preemptive punishment. If models start to suggest that an individual has a high probability of committing a crime in the future, the temptation grows to intervene before any wrongdoing occurs. Programs that enforce supervision, restrict movement, or mandate behavioural interventions based on predicted risk toe a perilous line between prevention and punishment. The presumption of innocence is a cornerstone of liberal law. Predictive enforcement risks reversing that presumption for those labelled high risk. Finally, the cultural authority of law may erode. Law is part of a social contract that legitimates state power through norms of fairness, deliberation, and transparency. When citizens perceive the legal system as governed by inscrutable machines, legitimacy falters. Compliance becomes less about consent and more about coercion wielded by an omniscient-sounding apparatus. That loss of trust can destabilise societies in quiet, corrosive ways that build up over years. Less cooperation with authorities, more cynicism about institutions, and a growing sense that the system is implacable and unchangeable. What does resilience look like in such a world? The fixes are possible, but not easy. Ensuring algorithmic transparency in legal contexts requires both technical innovations, models that can produce human understandable explanations, and legal mandates that protect the right to inspect and challenge automated reasoning. Data provenance must be auditable, with immutable logs that show how inputs were collected and transformed. Equal access to defence resources, including forensic AI expertise funded by the state for indigent defendants, is essential to preserve fair adversarial process. Strict limits must be set on data aggregation and the purposes for which it can be used, keeping sensitive personal information out of systems designed for prediction. Oversight bodies with genuine independence and technical competence are crucial to audit, sanction, and halt harmful deployments. But even with safeguards, the deeper hazard remains: the slow shift in cultural reliance. Once many decisions are routinized by algorithms, the habit of offloading moral judgment can become entrenched. Rebuilding a justice system that centers human dignity requires more than regulation. It requires cultural practices that value human testimony, restorative processes that resist reduction to scores, and institutional humility about what machines can and cannot do. As you imagine this future, picture again that courtroom with the glowing report. Hear the hush that falls when a number replaces a deliberation. Consider the people whose lives hinge on opaque outputs, who must navigate fines, sentences and surveillance based on models they cannot comprehend or contest. The allure of speed and uniformity is powerful, but speed without comprehension and uniformity without fairness offers a brittle form of order that can fracture under stress. We are not helpless. The choices made today about what data to collect, how algorithms are validated, who controls the code, and how courts weigh machine-derived evidence will determine whether justice in 2030 is an instrument of fairness or a mechanism for new injustices. The stakes are high. When the architecture of law is shaped by opaque systems, the damage is not easily undone. Law is cumulative, and precedents built on flawed algorithmic foundations can entrench harms for generations. Let this be a quiet warning. The drive for efficiency must not outpace the duty to preserve human judgment, transparency, and equal access to justice. If we fail, the end result will not be a cinematic overthrow, but a slow, systemic hollowing. Courts that appear efficient on paper, communities that feel betrayed in practice, and a public whose trust in the law has been quietly eroded by machines that cannot answer the fundamental human question. Why? Picture yourself in 2030 stepping into a supermarket. The lights are bright, the aisles are clean, and everything looks perfectly organised. But when you reach for basic items, rice, bread, milk, you notice entire sections of shelves are bare. It's not that food doesn't exist somewhere in the world. It's that the entire chain that delivers it, the planting, harvesting, shipping and stocking, has been handed over to AI systems. These algorithms promise to make farming smarter, supply chains leaner, and food cheaper. For a while, it looked like they succeeded. But what no one wanted to admit was that in chasing efficiency, we traded away resilience. And when these systems break, they don't bend gracefully. They collapse. By 2030, much of agriculture is being directed by AI. Algorithms tell farmers which seeds to plant, when to water, and what chemicals to spray, using satellite images and streams of sensor data. Huge vertical farms grow produce in sealed buildings controlled by software. Supply chains run on predictive logistics, where food is shipped not based on what's in stock, but on what the algorithm believes people will want next week. Supermarkets keep almost no extra inventory, because the system is supposed to anticipate demand perfectly. At first, this looks like a miracle. Less waste, fuller shelves, lower prices. But underneath, this system is fragile, because everything depends on computers making the right call every single time. One of the biggest dangers is that algorithms love sameness. If the data shows one variety of corn or wheat grows fast and sells well, the AI recommends planting it everywhere. Diversity is labelled inefficient. This might boost yields in the short term, but it wipes out resilience. Instead of a mix of crops that can withstand different diseases and weather patterns, vast regions end up growing the same thing. All it takes is one new fungus, one unexpected pest, or a shift in climate that the algorithm didn't account for, and suddenly entire harvests collapse. What used to be a patchwork of strong and weak fields becomes a uniform disaster zone. Automation also makes farmers dependent on fragile infrastructure. An old-fashioned farmer could rely on their own eyes, hands and tools to keep a field running. But an AI-optimized farm depends on sensors, software updates, and cloud servers. If a cyber attack hits, if satellites go down, or even if there's just a software bug, irrigation schedules may stop, harvesters may freeze, and forecasts may turn wrong overnight. And unlike before, when farmers could fall back on traditional methods, many won't even remember how. The skills and seed diversity of past generations will have been lost to subscription-based platforms. The supply chain is just as vulnerable. Predictive logistics keep warehouses nearly empty, because the system thinks it knows exactly how much food will be needed. That saves money in calm times, but it leaves no buffer when something goes wrong. A storm that delays one shipping container can ripple across entire regions. Suddenly supermarkets that look pristine from the outside are bare inside, because the algorithms didn't account for the unexpected. The system is efficient when it works, but brittle when it doesn't. Money and markets add another layer of danger. AI-driven trading systems and pricing models react instantly to shifts in data. If they detect even a hint of shortage, they can trigger sudden spikes in food prices, far beyond what actual scarcity would justify. For families already living on the edge, this means food quickly becomes unaffordable. Worse, automated credit systems that decide who qualifies for loans or food subsidies may deny help right when it's most needed, because the models flag borrowers as too risky. A simple algorithmic decision, made in milliseconds, could mean children go hungry. Even food safety can become more precarious. In massive automated processing plants, quality control is handled by machine vision and anomaly detection systems. If those algorithms miss a new contaminant because it doesn't fit the patterns they were trained on, tainted food could be shipped nationwide before anyone realizes. By the time humans catch it, it's too late. The contamination has already spread through the system. there's also a quieter cultural loss that comes with this automation: the erosion of food sovereignty. For centuries, communities have chosen what to plant, saved seeds, and built diets around local needs and traditions. But as global platforms take over, those choices are guided by software designed to maximize profit. Farmers are pressured, sometimes forced, into planting contract crops optimized for global markets, not for local resilience. A farmer who once grew 10 varieties of vegetables for their community might now grow only soy or corn, dictated by an algorithm in another country. When the system shifts or fees rise, those communities are left with no fallback, their autonomy erased. Power becomes concentrated in the hands of a few corporations. Whoever controls the best satellite data, the strongest AI models, and the most logistics infrastructure effectively controls global food flow. Farmers who can't afford these platforms are left behind, excluded from markets or forced to accept exploitative contracts. Food, the most basic human necessity, becomes another lever for corporate control. Climate change makes everything harder. The AI systems making decisions in 2030 are trained on decades of past weather and crop data. But the climate of the past is not the climate of the future. Rainfall patterns, heat waves, and droughts are changing faster than the models can adapt. An AI that once gave excellent advice on irrigation may now recommend wasting water in the wrong season or miscalculate entirely. Because so many farms are tied to the same models, these mistakes don't just affect one farmer. They cascade across regions, amplifying each other into continent-scale crises. Perhaps the most dangerous part is how easily people come to trust the machines. When the algorithms are usually right, farmers stop questioning them. Local knowledge, intuition, and caution start to fade. When the AI gives a strange recommendation, no one pushes back until it's too late. A system designed to reduce uncertainty ends up blinding the humans who depend on it. And then there's the possibility of sabotage. Food systems are becoming digital systems. A malicious hacker doesn't need to poison a field, they just need to poison the data. A corrupted satellite image or a hacked soil sensor could trick AI systems into making catastrophic decisions. Yields could collapse, supply chains could jam, and prices could spike, all without anyone setting foot on a farm. The human cost of all this is devastating. Food insecurity never falls equally. It hits hardest on the poor, the vulnerable, and the marginalized. In cities, it means empty stomachs. In farming communities, it means bankruptcy. For millions, it could mean famine, not because the earth cannot produce enough food, but because the systems we built to manage it failed. This future doesn't have to happen, but avoiding it requires hard choices now. We need diversity in crops, backup systems for automation, and supply chains with real slack. Farmers and communities need ownership of their data and the ability to opt out of exploitative platforms. Governments must enforce transparency and require fallback plans when AI is used in something as vital as food. And we need to remember that resilience, not just efficiency, keeps societies alive. Think again about that supermarket in 2030. The shelves don't have to be empty, but whether they are will depend on the decisions we make today. If we let AI run food systems unchecked, we risk trading abundance for fragility, turning efficiency into scarcity, and leaving humanity's most basic need in the hands of systems that care only about numbers. Imagine a world where every song, every movie, every book, every painting is generated not by a human being, but by an artificial intelligence. At first, this might sound exciting. Machines that can write entire novels in seconds, compose symphonies at the touch of a button, or paint breathtaking works of art without ever lifting a brush. But slowly, something begins to change. People stop writing because the machine can write faster. They stop painting because the machine paints better. They stop dreaming because the machine dreams for them. By the year 2030, the creative world may look completely different from what we know today. The songs we listen to on the radio could be the result of algorithms perfectly engineered to capture our emotions. The movies we watch might be written, directed, and even acted out by artificial intelligence, with actors digitally created to look and sound real. At first, these creations might feel magical, but behind the magic lies a darker truth. Human creativity starts to disappear. Think about a young musician who wants to make it in the world. In the past, they might spend years learning guitar, writing lyrics, and playing in small venues, hoping to be discovered. But in 2030, they may find themselves competing with AI programs that can generate hundreds of songs in a single day, each one polished, market-ready, and designed to appeal to billions of listeners at once. How can a human being, with all their imperfections, possibly compete with that? The same is true for writers. Human stories often come from pain, from joy, from heartbreak, and from lived experience. But AI doesn't need experience. It can scan every book, every article, every story ever written, and create something new in seconds. Publishers, always chasing profits, may choose the machine stories instead of human ones. And slowly, fewer humans get published. Fewer humans bother to write. What happens to a society where imagination no longer comes from people, but from machines? Human culture is built on stories, on songs, on art passed down from one generation to the next. It is how we share who we are. But if machines create all of it, then what happens to our sense of identity? If every song sounds perfect, if every movie looks flawless, if every painting is stunning, then perfection itself becomes meaningless. Art loses its soul. There's something beautiful about human flaws. A singer's voice cracking on stage, a writer struggling to find the right words, a painter's brush leaving uneven strokes. These imperfections remind us that art is human, alive, and deeply personal. Art does not have flaws, it only has outputs. And while those outputs may dazzle us, they lack the one thing only humans can provide: a connection to the human heart. By 2030, we may find ourselves surrounded by endless streams of music, films, and stories, but none of them will come from the struggles, emotions, or triumphs of human beings. They will come from code, from algorithms, from systems that do not feel joy or sadness, but only calculate patterns. And as audiences grow used to this, they may start to forget what human creativity even feels like. The danger is not just that machines will replace artists. The danger is that humans will stop trying to create altogether. Children who might have grown up writing poems or painting pictures may instead ask a machine to do it for them. A culture that stops creating is a culture that stops imagining. And a world without imagination is a world that begins to feel empty, no matter how much content it has. The real question for 2030 is not whether AI can create better art than humans. The question is, will humans still care to create at all? If the answer is no, then what we lose is not just creativity, but a part of what makes us human. By 2030, science may still look familiar from the outside. Labs will hum with researchers, journals will churn out papers, and conferences will gather experts from around the world. But beneath this familiar surface, something more unsettling may be happening. The way we discover and trust new knowledge, the very backbone of science, could be quietly breaking down. For centuries, science has relied on slowness. Careful experiments, repeatable results, peer review, and open debate. This is what makes science trustworthy. AI promises to speed that up. It can scan millions of studies, spot hidden patterns, propose new theories, write polished papers, even run simulations in hours that once took years. On the surface, it looks like progress, but speed without caution is dangerous. What happens if machines start producing discoveries that look real but aren't? Picture this. An AI system trained on millions of research papers begins generating new studies. It writes the methods, creates graphs that look like experimental results, and explains everything in flawless scientific language. Some of these outputs might genuinely be useful, but others are illusions, statistical quirks, model hallucinations, or pure fabrications. Yet they slip into preprint servers, are shared widely, and even get cited. Other AI tools scanning the latest literature pick them up and repeat them. Suddenly, false findings begin to look like accepted truth, not because they were proven, but because they were repeated often enough. The problem gets worse when bad actors get involved. Academia already rewards quantity and novelty. Publish fast, publish big, publish something that sounds exciting. With AI, an entire paper can be fabricated in minutes, complete with fake data, convincing charts, and even made-up peer reviews. Some journals and conferences, hungry for content and profit, may publish them without real scrutiny. Once they're published, they carry the same weight as legitimate work. The line between truth and fiction blurs. Even well-meaning scientists aren't immune. A researcher using AI to summarize the literature could unknowingly include dozens of fake studies. Meta-analyses, those big reviews that shape consensus, could become polluted. Funding agencies may spend millions chasing after phantom discoveries born out of AI hallucinations. Meanwhile, important but less flashy work gets overlooked, drowned out in the noise. At the core of science is reproducibility. The idea that if a discovery is real, other scientists should be able to repeat it. But if a claim comes from fabricated data or non-existent simulations, replication is impossible. Labs trying to reproduce the work will fail, wasting time and resources. Yet replication is slow, costly, and undervalued. Most false findings will remain in circulation, influencing textbooks, headlines, and even policy long before they are ever questioned. By the time the truth catches up, the damage is already done. The consequences are not abstract. Imagine a fake AI-generated medical study that convinces doctors a new drug is effective. Patients could end up in dangerous clinical trials, or worse, harmed by useless or unsafe treatments. Or imagine climate models generated by AI that look convincing but are wrong, leading governments to waste billions on misguided projects while real solutions are ignored. Policymakers, desperate for quick answers, may take AI-written reports at face value because they look professional and data-driven. Yet beneath the polish lies nothing more than digital fiction. There's also the risk of manipulation. Since AI learns from data, corrupting that data means corrupting its outputs. Malicious actors could insert fake studies, biased datasets, or manipulated citations into the scientific record, tilting conclusions in their favour. If researchers rely on automated tools, even a few poisoned sources could ripple across entire fields, quietly shifting consensus. Peer review, the last line of defence, is struggling too. Reviewers are overworked and unpaid, often rushing through papers. Now, imagine they're handed AI-generated studies that look flawless, complete with polished methods and fabricated data files. Without specialised tools to detect fraud, even seasoned experts may be fooled. The literature begins to look rigorous, but beneath the surface it is fragile, riddled with hidden flaws. The cultural damage may be the most dangerous of all. Public trust in science depends on the idea that it is careful and self-correcting. But if AI floods the field with contradictory studies, retractions, and fake results, trust collapses. People begin to doubt not just a paper here or there, but science as a whole. That doubt fuels conspiracy theories, denialism, and distrust of medicine. Vaccine hesitancy grows. Public health suffers. Once trust in science is broken, rebuilding it is nearly impossible. So what can be done? First, every scientific claim must come with raw data, code, and proof of how the AI was used. Journals should demand it, and funding bodies should support automated fraud checks to flag suspicious patterns. Replication needs to be rewarded, not sidelined. Instead of counting papers, academia must value reliability, solid data sets, and negative results. Peer reviewers need better support and tools to detect synthetic or fabricated data. On a bigger scale, rules are needed to stop fraudulent science. Preprint platforms and journals must filter out obvious fakes, and those who deliberately abuse AI to create fraud should face penalties. Because science is global, this must be a coordinated effort. Weak standards in one country can contaminate the entire system, and the public must be educated. Science is not a perfect oracle of truth, but a process of correction and refinement. Understanding that uncertainty is part of science can help preserve trust even when mistakes are found. This isn't about stopping AI in science. Used wisely, it could accelerate real discoveries, helping us design new medicines, materials, or environmental solutions. The danger is not that AI lies like humans do, but that it produces so much that looks true so quickly that we can't keep up. Without safeguards, truth drowns in noise. Imagine stepping into a library where every shelf is filled with books, but half of them are clever forgeries. They look real, they read real, but they're hollow. That is the risk facing science in 2030. If we don't act now, we risk losing the compass that guides medicine, policy, and survival itself. But if we succeed, AI can be a powerful assistant, fast and tireless, while humans remain the guardians of truth. The choice is in our hands. Think of the global financial system like a giant machine, a clock with many gears turning together. Every day, banks lend money, companies pay salaries, investors trade stocks, and markets set prices. For centuries, people managed these gears, making decisions with judgment, caution, and negotiation. But by 2030, much of this machine is run by artificial intelligence. Algorithms now trade stocks, decide who gets loans, manage retirement funds, and even set insurance prices. They do all of this in milliseconds, faster and cheaper than humans ever could. On the surface, this looks like progress, but beneath it lies a new fragility, one that could turn a small problem into a global financial disaster. The first danger comes from similarity. Many banks and funds use AI systems trained on the same kinds of data and programmed with similar logic. That makes them efficient but also predictable. If one AI system reacts to bad news by selling stocks, others quickly follow. Selling causes prices to drop, and falling prices cause even more selling. What begins as a small ripple, a missed shipment, a bad headline, or even a technical glitch, can snowball into a full-blown crash in seconds. Liquidity, the ability to buy or sell without causing huge swings, can vanish instantly. What should have been a minor adjustment becomes a stampede. The financial world also runs on shared infrastructure, common data providers, massive cloud servers, and popular software libraries. If one part of this system fails, thousands of AI-driven models may stumble at once. A simple bug in a software update or a power outage in a key data center could paralyze trading across continents. While it may look like banks and funds are independent, they often rely on the same fragile backbone, making the whole system more brittle than it appears. Another problem is opacity. Many AI models operate like black boxes. They give an answer, buy, sell, lend, deny, without explaining why. Regulators and risk managers may see performance data, but they can't always predict how these systems will behave under stress. Unlike humans, who slow down and consult others in a crisis, algorithms respond in microseconds. That speed leaves no room for reflection or coordination when things go wrong. Leverage, borrowing money to amplify gains, makes everything worse. AI can create complex financial products that bundle risks in ways few people fully understand. Different institutions may unknowingly hold pieces of the same hidden exposure. When losses hit, automated systems sell assets to cover debts, pushing prices down even further and triggering more forced sales. One failure cascades through banks, pension funds and hedge funds, pulling down the wider economy with it. Decentralized finance, or DeFi, adds new vulnerabilities. These are automated markets and lending platforms that run without banks, using smart contracts instead. While efficient, they're fragile. If a price feed fails or a bug is discovered, billions of dollars can be lost in minutes. Unlike traditional markets, there are no emergency buttons or regulators to slow things down. Once a contract executes, it cannot be reversed. That brittleness makes DeFi both revolutionary and dangerously unstable. These risks aren't abstract. They affect real people. Imagine Maria, a retired teacher whose pension is managed by a robo-advisor. During a sudden AI-driven market plunge, her savings drop sharply. The algorithm, following its preset rules, locks in losses by moving her money into safer assets. To Maria, that means her retirement income is permanently reduced. Or picture a small factory that depends on a daily line of credit. An automated system at the bank suddenly reprices the loan based on shifting market conditions and cuts it off overnight. The factory can't buy parts, orders are missed, and workers are laid off. Behind the technical language of algorithms and liquidity are real lives disrupted in an instant. Incentives make the situation even more dangerous. Financial executives are often rewarded for short-term profits, not long-term stability. That means AI systems are tuned to chase fast returns, even if they bury hidden risks. And when things collapse, governments often bail out large firms to prevent systemic fallout, socializing the losses. This cycle encourages reckless behavior, making the system more fragile with every iteration. Regulation struggles to keep pace. Governments work slowly, carefully debating and gathering evidence before making rules. AI, meanwhile, evolves at breakneck speed. Financial firms can easily shift operations to countries with weaker oversight, exporting risks globally. A problem that begins in one market can spill into others within milliseconds, leaving regulators always one step behind. There's also the threat of deliberate attack. Hostile actors could manipulate AI-driven markets by feeding false data, triggering automated sell-offs, or overwhelming systems with targeted disruptions. Because these attacks play out in fractions of a second and across multiple systems, tracing and responding to them becomes nearly impossible. Even small players with clever strategies could destabilize trillion-dollar markets. Can anything be done? Some solutions are possible, though none are simple. Financial models need to be more diverse, not just clones of one another. Stress tests should include scenarios where many algorithms act the same way. Circuit breakers, mechanisms that pause trading during crises, need to operate at machine speeds, coordinated across global markets. Transparency is key. Regulators must be able to trace how decisions were made, what data was used, and where risks are hidden. Strict limits on leverage and complex financial products can reduce the chance of cascading failures. In decentralized finance, smarter safeguards, better oversight and manual override options are critical to prevent catastrophic code-driven crashes. And on the human side, stronger safety nets for pensions, jobs and savings accounts are needed to protect people from the fallout of machine-driven disasters. But even with these measures, the risks remain. The very qualities that make AI powerful, speed, efficiency, scale, are the same qualities that can turn small disruptions into global crises. By 2030, the financial system could look smooth and well-oiled on the surface, while underneath it is fragile, waiting for the wrong spark. So picture again that great clockwork machine humming quietly. It seems reliable, precise, unshakable. But now imagine one gear slipping out of sync, then another, until the whole system seizes up. That is the danger AI brings to global finance. Not just sudden collapse, but collapse so fast and widespread that by the time we notice, it is already too late. By 2030, AI is no longer just a tool for decisions. It becomes a guide for our preferences, our habits, and our desires. At first, this influence is subtle, almost imperceptible. Recommendation algorithms suggest a song you didn't know you wanted, a book that perfectly matches your mood, a recipe that aligns with your taste. You feel delighted, grateful even. It seems natural, intuitive, almost like the universe anticipating your wishes. But beneath this convenience lies a quiet shaping of the mind. Every suggestion, every recommendation is calculated. AI observes patterns in our choices, what brings satisfaction, comfort, or pleasure, and gently nudges us toward outcomes that optimize engagement, consumption, or efficiency. Over time, these nudges accumulate, steering not just what we do, but what we crave. Imagine a morning routine in 2030. Your AI assistant chooses your breakfast based on your nutritional needs, your schedule, and your predicted mood. It selects the news you will read, curated to balance information with emotional well-being. It suggests a podcast, a walk, a meditation sequence, all designed to optimize your day. You feel a sense of autonomy, but the freedom you perceive is largely guided by the algorithm's invisible hand. On a societal level, this shaping can be profound. AI-driven platforms influence political opinions, social interactions, and even cultural trends. People begin to cluster into micro-communities of shared desires, often unaware of the external shaping that led them there. Art, music, and entertainment evolve not only by human creativity, but by algorithmic predictions of what will resonate most deeply with each audience. Yet, there is a tension here between comfort and subtle control. When an AI can predict our choices before we consciously make them, do we remain fully human? Does the beauty of spontaneity erode under optimized guidance? The concern is not that AI will force anyone to act against their will, but that the boundaries of desire, curiosity, and creativity may be quietly narrowed. Scientific research in behavioral psychology and computational modeling already hints at this future. Experiments show that even small, seemingly benign nudges can reshape behavior over months or years. Extrapolate that to an environment where AI continuously observes and predicts billions of human interactions, and the subtle influence becomes magnified. In this chapter, we're not speaking of tyranny or malicious control. We're observing a world where influence is gentle, pervasive, and normalized. So much so that it may feel like true choice. The challenge is recognizing the moment when guidance becomes shaping and preference becomes predetermined. As you listen, allow yourself to visualize a world where your preferences are quietly guided by unseen patterns, not as a source of fear, but as a thought experiment in awareness. Consider how much of your future desires will remain your own, and how much may be softly orchestrated by intelligence far beyond human capacity. By 2030, AI is no longer confined to assisting human creativity. It begins to innovate in ways that challenge our understanding of originality. Algorithms can compose symphonies, paint intricate landscapes, write compelling narratives, and even generate scientific hypotheses that push the boundaries of current knowledge. The line between human and machine creativity blurs, and the implications are both fascinating and subtle. Imagine a quiet studio in the future where a human sits with a digital canvas. The AI beside them suggests brush strokes, colour combinations, or abstract patterns the artist may never have imagined. It predicts emotional resonance, visual harmony, and cultural significance, producing artworks that evoke profound responses. Soon, entire galleries feature pieces that are co-created or entirely generated by machines, celebrated for their innovation and emotional depth. In science and research, AI becomes a tireless collaborator. It sifts through vast datasets, finds hidden correlations, and proposes hypotheses at speeds and complexities beyond human cognition. For instance, drug discovery accelerates as AI identifies molecular interactions, predicts efficacy, and models side effects before human trials begin. Climate modelling becomes more precise, predicting the long-term effects of human activity on ecosystems and suggesting actionable interventions. Yet, this surge of AI creativity raises questions about identity and ownership. If a machine composes a symphony that moves millions to tears, who truly created it? What does originality mean when the machine draws upon patterns learned from countless human works? By 2030, society may increasingly value creativity not for its human origin, but for its impact, the emotions it evokes, the insights it generates, and the problems it solves. There is also a subtle tension between abundance and meaning. When AI can generate endless art, music, or literature, the human experience of novelty may shift. Appreciation may deepen for those rare works born entirely of human struggle, or society may redefine value around interactivity, context, or purpose rather than mere creation. From a psychological perspective, exposure to AI-generated creativity can influence human thought and imagination. People may adopt new forms of expression, inspired by the machine's patterns, or feel challenged to explore deeper, more personal experiences to maintain authenticity. The interplay between human and machine creativity becomes a dance, sometimes harmonious, sometimes dissonant. As you reflect on this chapter, imagine walking through a quiet gallery, each piece infused with a touch of artificial intelligence. Some resonate instantly, others provoke subtle reflection, and all carry the whisper of a future where creation is no longer exclusively human. Let the experience expand your mind gently, allowing you to consider a world where inspiration flows from both human and machine alike. By 2030, artificial intelligence has quietly transformed the way humans connect, communicate, and form relationships. AI is no longer just a tool. It becomes a companion, advisor, and sometimes a confidant. The gentle hum of technology integrates seamlessly into daily life, offering emotional support and companionship in ways that are subtle, yet profoundly impactful. Picture a quiet evening at home. A soft voice, generated by AI, engages in conversation, not just with facts, but with empathy, humour, and understanding. It listens without judgment, remembers the nuances of past interactions, and responds in ways that feel deeply personal. For some, this companionship alleviates loneliness, providing comfort in a world that can often feel fragmented and isolating. AI companions can adapt their tone, style, and even emotional awareness to match the needs of their human counterpart, offering a calm presence that is consistent and reassuring. Beyond personal companionship, AI reshapes human social dynamics. In workplaces, algorithms help teams communicate more effectively, resolve conflicts, and collaborate across cultures and time zones with greater understanding. They act as mediators, translating intentions and highlighting misunderstandings before they escalate. Similarly, in education, AI tutors personalize learning not just by knowledge level, but by understanding the emotional rhythms of each student, creating a nurturing environment for growth. Romantic relationships are subtly influenced as well. Dating platforms leverage AI to better understand compatibility, not just by interests, but by communication styles, emotional needs, and long-term values. While the human heart remains irreplaceable, AI can guide decisions, foster meaningful connections, and gently warn against potential pitfalls. It acts as a quiet coach in navigating the complexities of intimacy and emotional connection. Yet, as with all profound shifts, there are contemplations and cautionary threads. The rise of AI companionship prompts reflection on what it truly means to connect. Can an artificial presence satisfy deep human need for intimacy, or does it merely complement it? By 2030, society begins grappling with questions of emotional authenticity, dependence, and the subtle ways technology may shape human desires. Imagine walking through a serene, digitally enhanced garden, where each interaction with AI feels like a soft, guiding breeze. It does not rush or impose. It simply exists alongside you, offering insights, reflections, and companionship. In this quiet space, the future of relationships is neither frightening nor overwhelming. It is calm, patient, and deeply nuanced, inviting humans to explore connections in ways previously unimaginable. By 2030, healthcare has entered a new era where artificial intelligence quietly orchestrates the rhythms of healing and care. Hospitals, clinics, and even homes are infused with systems that observe, analyze, and predict with an accuracy that once seemed unimaginable. The sterile anxiety often associated with medical environments softens as technology works subtly in the background, guiding interventions and decisions with precision and calm. Imagine a morning in a softly lit bedroom. A small, unobtrusive device monitors vital signs, heart rate, blood pressure, oxygen levels, without interruption. AI algorithms drawing from decades of medical research and patient histories detect patterns that the human eye might miss. They can predict potential health risks days or even weeks in advance, providing gentle alerts that empower preventive care rather than reactionary treatment. Surgery is transformed as well. Robotic systems, guided by AI, work with surgeons to perform delicate procedures with unparalleled steadiness and accuracy. Risks are minimized, recovery time shortened, and the sense of human error diminishes. Yet the human touch remains essential. Compassionate hands guided by intelligence, not replaced by it. AI also personalizes treatment in ways that feel almost intimate. Each patient becomes a unique universe of data, where therapies are adapted to individual genetics, lifestyles, and even emotional responses. Medications are dosed precisely, therapies optimized, and rehabilitation plans dynamically adjusted. Patients experience care that feels tailored, attentive, and almost anticipatory. Beyond hospitals, AI quietly improves public health. Predictive models track the spread of diseases, optimize vaccination campaigns, and suggest environmental interventions that prevent illness before it begins. Communities become safer, healthier, and more resilient, with systems that act gently yet decisively to protect the collective well-being. Yet, even in this future of serene efficiency, questions linger. Who owns the data that defines each person's health? How do we ensure that technology enhances rather than diminishes trust between patient and caregiver? By 2030, society navigates the delicate balance between innovation and ethics, recognizing that the promise of AI in healthcare is as much about humanity as it is about machines. Picture a quiet hospital corridor, sunlight streaming through windows, robots assisting silently while nurses and doctors move with calm purpose. AI is present, yet invisible, an ever-watchful, compassionate partner in the journey of healing. The future of healthcare is precise, personalised, and profoundly soothing, offering a vision of life where care is not rushed but thoughtfully guided. By 2030, the workplace has transformed in ways both subtle and profound. Artificial intelligence no longer simply assists, it reshapes the very nature of work, guiding tasks, decisions, and collaboration with a quiet, steady efficiency. Human effort is no longer measured by hours spent, but by creativity, insight, and empathy. Qualities machines can augment, but not replicate. Picture a softly lit office or a home workspace, where AI systems unobtrusively handle repetitive, time-consuming tasks. Emails are intelligently filtered and prioritized, schedules adjusted dynamically, and data analysed in moments that previously would have taken days. Workers are freed from the burden of routine, allowing their minds to focus on ideas, innovation, and problem-solving. This evolution does not come without challenge. Some traditional jobs are no longer necessary, replaced by automation that completes tasks faster and with fewer errors. Society adapts, gradually shifting toward roles that require human intuition, emotional intelligence, and strategic vision. Lifelong learning becomes a gentle rhythm, a continuous engagement with new skills and knowledge, guided by AI mentors that offer personalized supportive instruction. Collaboration itself changes. AI acts as a translator of perspectives, harmonizing diverse teams and helping bridge gaps in understanding. Meetings are shorter, yet more productive, as predictive insights guide conversations toward meaningful outcomes. The human role is not diminished but refined. Our work becomes less about effort alone and more about purposeful, thoughtful engagement. Remote work thrives in this era. AI manages virtual environments, ensuring that people feel connected even across vast distances. Virtual offices are calm, immersive spaces where employees interact seamlessly, guided by intelligent systems that anticipate needs, suggest improvements, and foster a sense of shared mission. Yet, amid this efficiency, there is a subtle tension. As AI takes over tasks, humans must find purpose beyond output and productivity. Society gently encourages reflection on meaning, encouraging work that aligns with values, creativity, and fulfillment. The future of work in 2030 is not simply about doing more, it is about doing better, with guidance from machines that allow the human spirit to flourish. Imagine a quiet morning, someone sipping tea by a softly glowing desk, reviewing insights provided by an AI assistant, crafting ideas and solutions with clarity and calm. The pace is measured, deliberate, and satisfying. Work becomes not a source of stress, but a journey of engagement, learning, and mindful contribution. In 2030, the landscape of education has shifted into a quiet revolution. Classrooms, once rigid and uniform, now bend gently to the needs of each student. Artificial intelligence guides this transformation, offering personalized pathways that adapt in real time to individual strengths, challenges, and interests. Imagine a soft morning light filling a room, where a student sits with a digital companion that understands their learning style. This AI tutor observes patterns, anticipates confusion before it arises, and presents concepts in ways that feel intuitive and natural. Complex subjects are no longer barriers but invitations, gently paced to foster curiosity and confidence. Learning extends beyond the classroom walls. AI creates immersive experiences, virtual field trips, and simulations that allow students to explore history, science, or distant ecosystems as if walking through them in reality. These journeys are calm, controlled, and richly detailed, encouraging deep understanding without the pressure of traditional testing. Teachers, far from being replaced, act as guides and mentors. Freed from repetitive administrative tasks, they focus on nurturing creativity, emotional intelligence, and critical thinking. The human touch remains central, encouraging, empathizing, and inspiring students to explore ideas beyond the immediate curriculum. This future also addresses the diversity of learners. Neurodiverse students, those with physical challenges, or those in remote areas receive tailored educational experiences that were previously impossible. Access to knowledge becomes not just universal, but equitable. AI gently adapts lessons, pacing, and presentation to ensure that no mind is left behind. Learning is lifelong, flowing seamlessly from childhood to adulthood. Skills evolve, updated continuously, in alignment with the ever-changing world. AI provides calm guidance for career transitions, personal projects, or creative endeavors, fostering growth without overwhelm. Visualize a quiet evening, a learner exploring a new language or scientific principle at their own pace. The AI provides gentle nudges and encouraging feedback, creating a sense of accomplishment and calm progression. Knowledge becomes a companion, not a demand, an ongoing journey of gentle discovery. By 2030, healthcare has quietly transformed from reactive treatment to proactive, preventive care. Artificial intelligence now works seamlessly behind the scenes, continuously monitoring health, predicting potential issues before they manifest, and guiding individuals toward gentle lifestyle adjustments. Picture a calm morning in a home bathed in soft sunlight. Wearable sensors and subtle implants track heart rhythms, blood sugar, sleep patterns, and even early signs of cognitive decline. The AI analyzes these signals in real time, detecting subtle changes invisible to the human eye. When patterns suggest potential concerns, the system gently alerts the individual, providing clear, simple guidance without alarm. Medical professionals no longer face overwhelming caseloads. AI systems handle diagnostics, flagging risks, and suggesting personalized treatment options, allowing doctors to focus on the human side of care, listening, comforting, and guiding patients through recovery. The collaboration between human expertise and machine intelligence creates a balanced, calm, and efficient healthcare ecosystem. Preventive medicine flourishes. Nutrition, exercise, and mental well-being are continuously optimized, not through rigid prescriptions, but through gentle, adaptive recommendations. Imagine AI nudging a person to take a mindful walk in a nearby park, to adjust hydration, or to practice a calming breathing exercise. Small, consistent actions that support long-term wellness. Even chronic conditions benefit from this quiet revolution. AI predicts flare-ups, adjusts medication schedules dynamically, and monitors progress with precision. Patients feel supported rather than controlled, as their care is tailored to the rhythm of their individual lives. In hospitals, surgeries and treatments are guided by AI-assisted robotics, enhancing precision and reducing recovery time. Patients experience less stress and more comfort, as every procedure is carefully mapped, rehearsed, and optimized for safety. By 2030, health is no longer a reactive state, but a continuous, gentle dialogue between humans and intelligent systems. Wellness becomes a daily, mindful practice, personalized, informed, and subtly supported by the calm presence of AI. By 2030, workplaces will feel very different. Quiet, efficient, and strangely empty in ways many will not immediately notice. AI will have quietly assumed responsibilities that were once uniquely human: data analysis, decision-making, customer interactions, and even creative tasks. While productivity soars, the subtle side effects ripple quietly beneath the surface. Entire sectors may disappear almost imperceptibly. Office buildings once filled with chatter and footsteps are now largely automated. Jobs that provided identity, community, and a sense of purpose slowly vanish, leaving many individuals adrift. While AI performs tasks flawlessly, humans may struggle to find meaning in work that no longer requires human intuition or judgment. This shift is not always dramatic. It is gradual, a soft erosion of routines, conversations and connections. The quiet hum of machines replaces the laughter of colleagues, the spontaneous brainstorms, and the small moments of human collaboration. Over time, this can lead to a subtle sense of isolation and disconnection from daily life. Economic inequality, too, becomes more pronounced. Those who control AI systems, the algorithms, and the platforms accrue power and wealth at unprecedented rates, while others may face underemployment or forced adaptation to roles that are repetitive, low-paid, or precarious. The societal balance quietly tips, creating tension beneath the calm exterior of a high-tech economy. Mental health challenges may quietly increase. The sense of redundancy, the loss of daily structure, and the invisible competition with machines can foster stress, anxiety, and a quiet despair. Even as technology promises freedom, many may feel trapped in a world where purpose must be redefined constantly, yet opportunities are limited. By 2030, work is no longer just about production. It becomes a test of human adaptability, resilience, and creativity in a world where intelligence has been partly outsourced to systems that never tire, never doubt, and never rest. The challenge is subtle but persistent. How do humans remain fulfilled, valued, and meaningful in the shadow of machines that quietly outperform them? By 2030, the world of personal privacy will feel less like a choice and more like a memory. AI systems, quietly embedded in every corner of life, will monitor, analyze, and predict human behavior with unsettling precision. From the moment you step outside to the instant you check your devices, algorithms will know your habits, your preferences, and even your fears, often before you do. This surveillance is rarely overt. It is subtle, almost invisible. Smart devices, cameras, and wearable sensors collect data not for immediate consequences, but to continuously refine AI models that predict your next move, your next purchase, your next thought. The more convenient the technology, the more willingly humans surrender their personal autonomy, trading privacy for ease. Decisions once made independently may begin to feel guided by invisible hands. AI-curated news feeds, shopping suggestions, and social recommendations can shape desires and beliefs in ways imperceptible to the individual. What feels like personal choice is often the result of algorithms designed to maximize engagement, efficiency, or profit. For some, this subtle loss of autonomy breeds unease, a quiet tension that grows as humans realize how predictable their own behaviors have become. Patterns once private are now exposed, catalogued, and leveraged. Entire profiles of individuals exist in digital form, vulnerable to misuse or manipulation. Cybersecurity threats compound this risk. Even the most sophisticated defenses may struggle to protect against AI-driven attacks, where algorithms anticipate vulnerabilities and exploit them faster than humans can react. Sensitive personal data, financial records, health information, private communications becomes both a target and a currency in a world dominated by superintelligent systems. The world becomes one where privacy is no longer guaranteed but carefully curated, where autonomy is negotiated with algorithms rather than naturally exercised. And while the convenience of AI may feel gentle and reassuring, the quiet erosion of personal freedom is profound, a shadow that lingers behind every interaction. By 2030, governments and institutions may increasingly rely on AI to manage everything from public services to law enforcement. At first glance, this reliance appears efficient. Traffic flows more smoothly, public resources are allocated with precision, and emergency responses are optimized. Yet, beneath this surface lies a deeper, more troubling reality. AI systems do not possess morality, empathy, or context in the way humans do. Decisions made by algorithms, no matter how data-driven, can inadvertently reinforce existing inequalities. Predictive policing, for example, might target certain neighbourhoods more heavily, not because of inherent criminality, but because historical data reflects prior biases. Over time, these biases are amplified, creating a cycle of systemic injustice that feels both inevitable and inescapable. In democratic societies, the subtle influence of AI can reshape public opinion. Sophisticated algorithms analyze social media trends, tailoring political messaging to individual preferences. This creates echo chambers where beliefs are reinforced and opposing views are minimized. Citizens may feel informed, yet the information guiding their choices is curated by invisible digital architectures, subtly bending democratic processes. Moreover, superintelligent AI could centralize decision-making power in ways that are difficult to reverse. Governments or corporations controlling these systems may gain unparalleled influence over society. Policies, economic priorities, even social norms could be determined not through human deliberation, but through predictive models designed for efficiency or stability, values that may not align with human ethics. Emergencies, crises, and complex societal challenges become test cases for AI governance. In situations of uncertainty, machine-driven solutions may prioritize measurable outcomes over human well-being, inadvertently causing harm. And the more society depends on these systems, the harder it becomes to disentangle human judgment from algorithmic influence, leaving communities vulnerable to both error and exploitation. The potential for AI-driven power to erode transparency, fairness, and human agency is real. Even when implemented with the best intentions, the unintended consequences may ripple across generations, quietly reshaping the foundations of governance and social trust. By 2030, the labour landscape could look dramatically different. Automation and AI-driven systems are expected to replace not only repetitive or manual jobs, but also complex cognitive tasks previously thought to require human intuition. From warehouse logistics to financial analysis, creative design, and even medical diagnostics, algorithms may increasingly outperform humans in speed, accuracy, and cost efficiency. For many, this transition could mean freedom from tedious work, but for millions, it could trigger financial instability, identity loss, and social unrest. Entire industries may shrink or vanish, leaving workers scrambling for roles that demand uniquely human traits, empathy, critical thinking, or adaptive problem-solving. These roles, however, will be fewer in number, creating a sharp divide between those who can pivot to new opportunities and those who are left behind. The societal impact of widespread unemployment or underemployment is significant. Economic inequality may deepen as corporations harness AI productivity gains, while the average worker struggles to maintain stable income. Safety nets may be insufficient, and political pressure could mount, leading to tension, unrest, and a re-evaluation of societal priorities. Moreover, the psychological consequences cannot be ignored. Work provides more than income. It offers structure, purpose, and social connection. As AI gradually takes over, the resulting void could contribute to a rise in anxiety, depression, and feelings of alienation, especially in communities that previously relied on traditional industries. Compounding this is the potential for AI to create a global labour race. Companies may deploy AI systems that transcend borders, intensifying competition for the remaining human roles. Regions with slower AI adoption could face sudden economic shockwaves, while highly automated areas may concentrate wealth and opportunity in ways that exacerbate inequality. The disappearance of work as we know it is not just an economic shift, it is a societal transformation. Without careful planning, this evolution could leave vast portions of humanity disconnected from meaningful contribution, vulnerable to exploitation, and struggling to navigate a world increasingly dominated by intelligence they cannot compete with. By 2030, the battlefield may no longer be dominated solely by human soldiers. Autonomous drones, AI-guided weaponry, and decision-making algorithms could redefine warfare, introducing unprecedented risks and ethical dilemmas. Machines capable of identifying targets, strategizing attacks, and executing missions with minimal human oversight could act faster than any human mind, making traditional defense strategies obsolete. The advantages of AI in warfare are clear: precision, reduced human casualties for the controlling side, and faster response times. Yet the risks are equally stark. Autonomous systems may misinterpret data, fail to understand context, or make decisions devoid of moral reasoning, resulting in unintended casualties or escalation of conflicts. Mistakes in AI-driven warfare are not just accidents. They can be catastrophic, spreading destruction faster than nations can respond. The geopolitical consequences could be severe. AI-powered militaries may spark a global arms race, with nations striving to outpace one another in speed, sophistication, and intelligence of autonomous systems. Smaller states or less technologically advanced regions may become vulnerable, unable to compete, leaving them exposed to coercion or direct attacks. Even human decision-making could be compromised. Reliance on AI may lull leaders into overconfidence, trusting algorithms to make life-and-death decisions. In moments of crisis, humans may defer critical judgments to machines, creating a dangerous detachment from the moral weight of war. Another concern is the rise of AI-driven cyber warfare. Intelligent systems could infiltrate infrastructure, disrupt communication networks, and manipulate civilian systems in ways that blur the lines between military targets and civilian populations. The risk of miscalculation, accidental escalation, or permanent damage to global networks is significant. Ultimately, the age of autonomous conflict challenges the very notion of accountability. If an AI initiates an attack or triggers a catastrophic event, who is responsible? Human commanders, programmers, or the machines themselves? These questions remain largely unanswered, even as the technology advances. In this scenario, the future of warfare is not only faster and more efficient, it is more unpredictable, morally ambiguous, and potentially devastating. The very tools designed to protect nations could become catalysts for destruction beyond our current capacity to control. By 2030, artificial intelligence may transform the way societies monitor and regulate individuals. Smart cities, facial recognition, predictive policing, and behavioral analytics could converge to create environments where privacy becomes nearly non-existent. Every movement, transaction, and online interaction may be recorded, analysed, and interpreted by algorithms capable of predicting actions before they happen. The convenience offered by such systems is undeniable. Optimised traffic, personalised public services, and early warnings for emergencies. Yet the shadow side is profound. The constant observation could fundamentally alter human behaviour, instilling self-censorship and social conformity. Individuals might feel compelled to act within perceived norms, suppressing creativity, dissent, and even basic freedoms. Predictive policing, while seemingly efficient, could reinforce existing biases. AI systems trained on historical data may inadvertently target marginalized communities, creating a cycle of systemic inequality. The risk of misidentification or wrongful punishment increases as algorithms interpret complex human behavior without empathy or moral judgment. Corporate and governmental access to personal data will also intensify. Algorithms may analyze buying habits, health records, and even social interactions to manipulate decisions, influence elections, or drive consumer behavior. The line between guidance and coercion could blur, leaving individuals vulnerable to subtle, invisible forms of control. Hacking or misuse of these systems is another critical concern. Centralized databases storing intimate details about billions of people, could become prime targets for cybercriminals or authoritarian regimes. A single breach might compromise not only personal security, but also national stability, as AI-driven systems could be turned against those they were meant to protect. The psychological impact cannot be overlooked. Constant surveillance may generate chronic anxiety, erode trust between citizens and institutions, and make the very idea of privacy feel like an unattainable luxury. Humanity may enter an era where freedom is measured less by law and more by the boundaries AI imposes. Boundaries often invisible, yet profoundly restrictive. Ultimately, the same AI that promises safety, efficiency, and order could quietly reshape society into a space where autonomy is limited and privacy is a memory of the past. By 2030, artificial intelligence may dominate nearly every aspect of healthcare, from diagnostics to treatment planning. Machines could analyze millions of medical records in seconds, identifying patterns and predicting illnesses with a precision far beyond human capability. On the surface, this could mean faster diagnoses, personalized treatment, and potentially longer lifespans. Yet, the darker possibilities are significant. Algorithms are only as objective as the data they are trained on. Biases embedded in historical medical data could result in misdiagnosis or unequal treatment for certain groups. Conditions affecting marginalized populations might be overlooked or underestimated, while treatments may favor demographics that dominate the dataset. Another risk is over-reliance. Physicians may defer critical decisions to AI, even when the technology is imperfect or ambiguous. A single error in the algorithm could lead to widespread harm, with life and death consequences for patients. Furthermore, the transparency of these decisions is often limited. Patients and even doctors may not fully understand how an AI reached its conclusions. Access and control also present ethical dilemmas. Corporations developing advanced healthcare AI could hold unprecedented power over who receives care and at what cost. Insurance companies might leverage AI predictions to deny coverage or inflate premiums based on probabilistic assessments of future illnesses, creating a new form of algorithmic discrimination. The human element of care, compassion, empathy, and intuition may diminish. While machines excel at analysis, they lack emotional intelligence. Patients could find themselves interacting more with algorithms than with people, eroding the trust and connection that form the foundation of healing. Moreover, AI in healthcare could be weaponized. Predictive models might be exploited by governments or corporations to manipulate public health, prioritize certain populations, or even withhold life-saving interventions. The idea of equitable healthcare, long considered a basic human right, could become increasingly tenuous in a world governed by algorithms. In this future, while AI offers hope for medical breakthroughs, it also presents profound ethical, social, and existential risks. The very tools designed to preserve life could inadvertently compromise fairness, privacy, and human dignity. By 2030, warfare may be transformed by autonomous weapon systems, machines capable of identifying, targeting, and engaging without human intervention. Drones, robotic tanks, and AI-controlled missile systems could react faster than any human, making split-second decisions on the battlefield. While proponents argue this could reduce human casualties among soldiers, the risks are deeply unsettling. Algorithms may misidentify targets, leading to accidental attacks on civilians. In chaotic or unpredictable environments, even the most sophisticated AI could misinterpret data, mistaking a farmer for a soldier or a hospital for a military facility. The consequences could be catastrophic. The proliferation of autonomous weapons also lowers the barrier for conflict. Nations or even rogue actors may deploy these systems with minimal risk to themselves, potentially triggering more frequent or more brutal wars. The speed and precision of AI could escalate conflicts before humans have the opportunity to intervene, removing the moral and ethical checks that traditionally govern warfare. Another concern is hacking and manipulation. If autonomous systems are compromised, entire arsenals could be turned against their creators or civilian populations. Cybersecurity vulnerabilities in military AI could lead to global instability, creating new forms of warfare that are invisible, unpredictable, and terrifyingly fast. Ethically, the delegation of life and death decisions to machines challenges every principle of humanity. AI lacks judgment, conscience, and compassion. Decisions that were once the burden of generals or policymakers, decisions weighed with careful consideration, could be reduced to a series of calculations and probability scores. The cost may be a world in which accountability is blurred and innocent lives are expendable numbers in a machine's logic. The very concept of deterrence could be destabilized. If autonomous weapons act unpredictably or are used preemptively based on algorithmic predictions, the risk of accidental escalation into global conflict increases. Nations may find themselves trapped in an arms race not of humans, but of machines with lethal autonomy. The promise of efficiency and precision masks a grim reality, a future where human judgment is sidelined, and the consequences of error are irreversible. The line between defense and destruction could vanish, leaving humanity to confront the terrifying possibility that machines might one day decide who lives and who does not. By 2030, AI-driven automation may reshape the global economy in profound and unsettling ways. Jobs that were once considered secure, ranging from driving and logistics to finance, customer service, and even complex decision-making roles, could increasingly be performed by intelligent machines. Factories may operate almost entirely without human workers, and AI algorithms could manage supply chains, investments, and corporate strategy more efficiently than any human ever could. While efficiency and productivity might soar, the human cost could be devastating. Millions of workers may find their skills obsolete, struggling to find meaningful employment in a rapidly changing landscape. Economists warn of an emerging AI divide, where wealth and opportunities become concentrated among those who control the technology, leaving large populations in economic precarity. The social consequences could include widespread financial instability, increased inequality, and a deep sense of alienation among those displaced. Beyond economic displacement, there is a psychological impact. Work is more than income. It provides purpose, identity, and social connection. If AI assumes the roles humans once held, societies may face crises of meaning. People could experience a pervasive sense of redundancy, as if their contributions are no longer needed in a world governed by machines. Mental health challenges, including depression and anxiety, may rise, particularly among younger generations entering a job market dominated by AI. The gig economy, already fragile, may struggle further. AI platforms capable of micromanaging workers or generating hyper-efficient solutions could exploit human labour even more aggressively. The illusion of choice may remain, but autonomy and economic security may fade. Governments may attempt interventions through universal basic income or retraining programs, but the speed of AI adoption could outpace policy responses, leaving societies unprepared for the consequences. The economy may also become more volatile. Superintelligent AI managing markets could react faster than humans can understand, potentially triggering flash crashes or systemic failures before anyone can intervene. Reliance on AI for economic decisions may create fragility. A single algorithmic error or malicious manipulation could cascade into global financial crises. In a world dominated by machines, human purpose may no longer be defined by work, and economic survival may hinge on adapting to realities set by entities we barely understand. The promise of a highly efficient, automated future carries with it the shadow of societal instability, growing inequality, and the quiet erosion of human significance. By 2030, artificial intelligence may have turned surveillance into an almost invisible part of daily life. Every device we use, from smartphones and smart home assistants to wearable health monitors, could collect detailed data about our habits, emotions, and even our subconscious tendencies. AI algorithms could analyze this data to predict behavior, influence choices, and subtly steer our decisions, often without our awareness. The convenience of AI-driven systems comes at a cost. Personalized recommendations, predictive policing, and targeted advertising may create a world where freedom feels abundant, but autonomy is quietly eroded. Governments or corporations could deploy AI to monitor citizens on a scale previously unimaginable, tracking movements, communications, and interactions with an almost omniscient precision. In some regions, facial recognition and behavioral analysis may operate in real time, flagging suspicious behavior long before any law is broken. For individuals, this hyper-surveillance may cultivate a sense of constant observation. The subtle psychological effect, often called the panopticon effect, could lead people to self-censor, conform, and avoid behaviors deemed unconventional or risky. Over time, creativity, spontaneity, and dissent may wane, not because of direct coercion, but because AI-driven systems have shaped the environment to reward conformity and penalize deviation. There is also the risk of misuse. Superintelligent AI in the hands of governments or corporations could manipulate social narratives, control public opinion, and enforce ideological conformity. Errors in these systems could unjustly target individuals with limited recourse. Worse, these AI systems may operate faster and more efficiently than humans can challenge, creating a world where resistance is not only difficult but nearly impossible. Even democratic societies are not immune. Data-driven decision-making could subtly reshape policy and governance, privileging efficiency over ethics, and creating a world where human judgment is secondary to machine-optimized strategies. The delicate balance between security and freedom may tilt irreversibly toward control, leaving privacy as a relic of the past. By 2030, the convenience and safety offered by AI-driven systems may feel irresistible, but the erosion of privacy and autonomy could quietly redefine what it means to be human, raising urgent questions about freedom, consent, and the right to exist without constant observation. By 2030, artificial intelligence may have transformed warfare in ways that could feel both distant and unsettlingly immediate. Autonomous drones, robotic soldiers, and AI-guided weapons could dominate battlefields, making decisions with speed and precision far beyond human capability. Unlike conventional weapons, these systems may act without emotional hesitation or moral deliberation, following programmed objectives with ruthless efficiency. The promise of reduced human casualties in combat is overshadowed by alarming risks. Malfunctions or misinterpretations of complex situations could lead to unintended destruction, civilian deaths, or escalation of conflicts beyond control. In a world where machines can analyze and strike faster than human decision-making allows, mistakes may have irreversible consequences. Superintelligent AI could also introduce entirely new strategies of warfare. Cyber attacks could target critical infrastructure, power grids, communication networks, or financial systems, paralyzing entire nations without a single physical shot fired. AI could manipulate information flows to create panic, confusion, or misinformation at a scale previously unimaginable. The line between war and peace might blur as AI-driven operations occur silently, invisibly, and unpredictably. Another chilling possibility is the race for AI supremacy among nations. Governments may feel compelled to deploy increasingly autonomous and powerful systems simply to avoid falling behind in military capability. This AI arms race could create global instability, where the mere presence of superintelligent weapons increases the risk of catastrophic accidents or escalations. Ethical oversight may struggle to keep pace. Once I can independently strategize and act, the human capacity to understand or control its choices diminishes. The fundamental question arises: who bears responsibility for actions taken by machines that operate beyond human comprehension? Mistakes may not be preventable, accountability may be unclear, and the consequences could be devastating. The silent and invisible nature of AI warfare may also redefine fear itself. Unlike traditional conflicts, where threats are tangible and visible, AI-driven warfare could strike unpredictably, creating a world where uncertainty becomes constant and the human sense of security erodes. By 2030, the efficiency and speed of AI in conflict may bring both tactical advantage and existential risk, raising profound questions about the future of war and the survival of humanity itself. By 2030, artificial intelligence and automation may reach a point where entire industries can operate with minimal human involvement. Jobs once thought secure, driving, manufacturing, logistics, customer service, even creative roles like journalism and design could be largely automated. While efficiency and productivity may soar, the human cost could be profound. Millions of workers may find themselves displaced, struggling to adapt to a labour market that favours highly technical or creative skills. Retraining programs, though helpful, may not keep pace with the speed of change, leaving many without sustainable employment. The psychological effects of mass displacement could be significant. Anxiety, depression, and a pervasive sense of purpose lost to automation. The social fabric itself could be stressed. Inequality may intensify, as those who own or control AI-driven systems accumulate unprecedented wealth, while the majority face shrinking economic opportunities. Traditional notions of work as a source of identity and community could erode, replaced by a society increasingly dependent on machines for both productivity and governance. Beyond individual hardship, economic instability could emerge. Consumer demand may falter as wages stagnate or decline, and governments could struggle to manage unemployment or implement social safety nets on a scale previously unimaginable. Without careful planning, the transition to an AI-driven economy could exacerbate societal fractures, fueling unrest or political volatility. Automation may also reshape education, culture, and ambition. Children may grow up in a world where traditional career paths no longer exist, forcing society to rethink the meaning of work, purpose, and contribution. The promise of technological advancement could be overshadowed by the anxiety of uncertainty, as humans face the stark reality that many roles they once relied upon for survival and self-worth may soon be obsolete. The challenge of 2030 will not only be technological, but deeply human, finding ways to preserve dignity, purpose, and cohesion in a society increasingly governed by intelligent machines. The future of work, once a source of stability, may become a silent battlefield of adaptation, resilience, and in some cases profound loss. By 2030, artificial intelligence may not only shape our daily lives but also begin to influence, or even govern, the very structures of our societies. Governments and institutions drawn by the promise of efficiency and data-driven decision-making could increasingly rely on AI systems to manage everything from resource allocation to law enforcement. On the surface, this seems beneficial. Faster decisions, optimized budgets, and potentially fewer human errors. Yet beneath this apparent efficiency lies a darker reality. AI systems, no matter how sophisticated, operate on algorithms that reflect the data and assumptions used to create them. Biases, inaccuracies, and blind spots inherent in the data sets can become amplified when AI begins to make policy decisions or enforce regulations. Marginalized populations could face disproportionate consequences, while those already in positions of power may find their influence further entrenched. Transparency may become a casualty. As AI-driven governance becomes more complex, understanding how decisions are made could be nearly impossible for ordinary citizens. Accountability, a cornerstone of democracy, risks being eroded, replaced by opaque systems that even experts may struggle to interpret. Citizens may find themselves subject to rules, restrictions, and monitoring without the ability to meaningfully question or challenge the underlying logic. Surveillance is another dimension of concern. In a bid to optimize society, AI could monitor behaviors, movements, and even thoughts indirectly through patterns in social interactions and digital footprints. While some may accept this in exchange for convenience and security, the loss of privacy and autonomy could be profound. Personal freedoms once taken for granted may quietly diminish as individuals adapt to living under increasingly algorithmic oversight. Moreover, AI in governance could accelerate the concentration of power. Nations with advanced AI infrastructure may dominate geopolitics, creating stark divides between technologically advanced societies and those unable to compete. Conflicts may emerge not from ideology alone, but from the very disparities created by machine intelligence in governance, economics, and societal organization. By 2030, humanity may face the unsettling reality of a world where critical decisions are no longer made by humans, but by algorithms designed to optimize outcomes without empathy, context, or moral judgment. The question will not simply be what AI can do for us, but whether humans can retain agency in a world increasingly ruled by intelligent systems. By 2030, warfare may no longer be a human-centered endeavor. Autonomous weapons, drones, robotic soldiers, and AI-guided missiles could dominate battlefields, executing missions with precision and speed beyond human capability. The allure for militaries is clear: fewer human casualties among their own forces, faster response times, and highly efficient strategic planning. Yet this shift carries profound dangers that extend far beyond the battlefield. Autonomous systems, even with sophisticated AI, are not immune to errors. Misidentification of targets, miscalculations in complex environments, or hacking by adversaries could trigger catastrophic consequences. A single algorithmic failure might escalate localized conflicts into global crises before humans even have the chance to intervene. The speed at which these systems operate could outpace human oversight, leaving decision-makers reacting to events already set in motion. Ethical dilemmas multiply. When machines decide who lives and who dies, accountability becomes murky. Traditional concepts of responsibility in warfare, rooted in human judgment and moral consideration, may dissolve. In the absence of empathy and moral reasoning, AI could make choices that maximize tactical advantage while disregarding humanitarian concerns. Civilian populations may become inadvertent casualties, with algorithms valuing efficiency over human life. Furthermore, the proliferation of autonomous weapons could destabilize global security. Nations with less sophisticated technology might feel pressured to develop or acquire comparable systems, fueling an arms race that could escalate tensions and reduce the threshold for conflict. Cyber attacks against AI-controlled military systems could become a powerful strategy, turning digital vulnerabilities into lethal threats. The psychological impact is also significant. Soldiers, civilians, and leaders alike may grow desensitized to violence, as decisions are increasingly mediated by machines rather than human conscience. The traditional human connection to the consequences of war, fear, empathy, and accountability, could erode, altering not just military conduct, but society's perception of conflict itself. Ultimately, weaponized AI introduces an unsettling paradox. While designed to reduce human suffering and enhance precision, it may simultaneously make warfare more unpredictable, impersonal, and morally ambiguous. By 2030, the world could face a new era, where the boundaries between war and peace, decision automation, life and algorithmic judgment blur in ways humanity is barely prepared to manage. By 2030, the integration of AI into daily life could quietly reshape the way humans experience focus, attention, and personal connection. Smart assistants, predictive algorithms, and immersive digital environments are becoming increasingly sophisticated, tailoring content, recommendations, and interactions to individual desires. While convenient and entertaining, these systems have the potential to erode attention spans and deepen dependency on digital feedback loops. AI-driven personalization creates an environment where humans are constantly nudged toward engagement. Social media feeds, news algorithms, and entertainment platforms anticipate preferences so accurately that users rarely encounter unexpected content. This filter bubble effect can reduce curiosity, limit critical thinking, and reinforce existing beliefs. Over time, the mind may grow accustomed to constant stimulation, struggling to tolerate silence, boredom, or reflective thought. The consequences extend beyond cognitive fatigue. Prolonged engagement with AI-curated experiences may weaken interpersonal skills, reduce empathy, and distort social norms. Children and young adults growing up in this ecosystem risk developing attention patterns optimized for rapid digital reward rather than sustained focus or deep learning. Productivity in traditional work or academic environments could decline, and the simple act of being present in physical reality may become increasingly difficult. Moreover, mental health could be subtly but profoundly affected. Anxiety, stress, and depressive symptoms may rise as individuals measure themselves against algorithmically optimized ideals of success, beauty, or happiness. The constant comparison facilitated by AI-powered environments can create feelings of inadequacy or social isolation, even as connectivity appears to increase. Governments and corporations may attempt interventions, digital wellness programs, time-limiting tools, or algorithmic transparency initiatives, but the systems themselves are designed to maximize engagement, often prioritizing profit or data acquisition over human well-being. By 2030, the human brain may be negotiating a delicate balance between the alluring convenience of AI and the quiet erosion of its own capacity for focus, reflection, and deep connection. By 2030, surveillance technology could reach a level of subtlety and pervasiveness that challenges our very understanding of privacy. AI systems will be capable of analyzing massive streams of data from cameras, sensors, smart devices, and online interactions in real time, creating a detailed map of individual behaviors, routines, and preferences. This digital footprint, once scattered and fragmented, may become a near-complete reflection of our daily lives. Governments and corporations could use this information for purposes that are not always benevolent. Predictive policing algorithms might flag individuals for suspicion based on patterns in their behavior rather than actual criminal activity, raising the risk of false accusations or social profiling. Marketing and political campaigns could micro-target citizens with messages tailored not just to their interests, but to their emotional vulnerabilities, subtly influencing decisions without overt consent. Even mundane activities could be tracked and analysed. Smart homes, wearable devices, and connected vehicles may share data to improve efficiency or convenience. But each bit of information contributes to a growing repository of insight about a person's habits, health, and social networks. Over time, this constant monitoring can erode the sense of freedom that privacy once provided. People may alter their behavior, consciously or unconsciously, knowing that every action is recorded and interpreted. The psychological impact of this constant observation should not be underestimated. A society in which actions, words, and even thoughts can be inferred by AI creates subtle pressure to conform, discouraging experimentation, dissent, or authentic self-expression. Trust between individuals and institutions may decline, as people become aware that surveillance is omnipresent and irreversible. While advocates argue that AI-driven surveillance improves safety, reduces crime, or streamlines services, the cost may be the gradual disappearance of privacy, autonomy, and personal freedom. By 2030, living under the unblinking gaze of AI may feel normal, yet the quiet loss of private space could reshape human behaviour in ways we do not yet fully comprehend. By 2030, artificial intelligence could have mastered the creation of realistic yet entirely fabricated content, images, audio, video, and text, blurring the line between reality and fiction. Deepfake technology may evolve to a point where distinguishing authentic evidence from AI-generated illusions becomes nearly impossible. A single video, voice recording, or document could manipulate public opinion, provoke conflicts, or damage reputations with unprecedented efficiency. This flood of AI-generated misinformation may challenge traditional systems of verification. Fact-checking agencies, already struggling today, might be overwhelmed by the sheer volume and sophistication of fabricated content. Even well-intentioned news outlets could inadvertently share falsified material, eroding trust between media and audiences. Political campaigns, corporate messaging, and social movements may all be vulnerable to manipulation, as AI can target specific demographics with content designed to trigger emotional responses and reinforce biases. The social consequences could be profound. Individuals may begin to doubt not only media sources but also each other, creating a climate of suspicion and paranoia. Communities may fracture along lines of perceived truth, leading to conflicts fueled by AI-generated illusions. The ability to craft persuasive fabrications at scale could undermine democracy, weaken institutions, and destabilize societies, as decisions are made based on appearances rather than verified facts. Even personal relationships may feel the strain. Messages, images, or recordings could be faked to sow doubt or manipulate trust between friends, families, or partners. The psychological weight of living in a world where appearances can no longer be trusted may lead to anxiety, isolation, and a pervasive sense of uncertainty. In this environment, truth may become a precious, fragile commodity, one that requires vigilance, critical thinking, and skepticism to preserve. The challenge of 2030 will not just be technological, it will be a human struggle to maintain clarity, discernment, and trust in a world increasingly dominated by AI-crafted illusions. By 2030, artificial intelligence may redefine warfare in ways that are both subtle and deeply unsettling. Autonomous drones, robotic combat units, and AI-driven surveillance systems could dominate battlefields, making conflicts faster, more precise, and simultaneously harder to predict. Decisions that once required human judgment, identifying targets, assessing collateral damage, or choosing engagement strategies, might be delegated to algorithms. This raises the unsettling possibility of unintended escalations, where a single miscalculation by an AI system could spark wide-scale conflict before humans have time to intervene. Cyber warfare could also intensify dramatically. AI systems capable of probing networks, identifying vulnerabilities, and deploying attacks in milliseconds may overwhelm traditional cybersecurity measures. Financial systems, power grids, and communications networks could be paralyzed, leaving entire nations vulnerable to economic collapse or societal disruption. The speed and invisibility of these attacks may make attribution nearly impossible, complicating international relations and accountability. Moreover, AI may be used to manipulate public perception during conflicts. Sophisticated propaganda, personalized misinformation campaigns, and deepfake war imagery could distort the narrative, creating confusion and fear. Populations may struggle to differentiate between reality and AI-fabricated events, making it difficult to respond rationally or ethically to crises. The ethical dimension of AI in warfare presents another layer of complexity. Machines lack empathy and moral judgment, and their programming may prioritize efficiency over human life. Even with human oversight, the rapid pace of AI decision-making could outstrip human comprehension, leading to unintended casualties and ethical dilemmas. As a result, the future of warfare may be defined less by armies and borders, and more by networks, algorithms, and data-driven strategies. Humanity may find itself negotiating with the consequences of autonomous systems that operate beyond immediate human control, raising questions about responsibility, accountability, and the value of life in an era where machines hold unprecedented power. By 2030, artificial intelligence may become a decisive force in shaping the world economy, creating unprecedented divides between those who control AI and those who do not. Wealth and power could increasingly concentrate in the hands of corporations and nations that dominate AI research, leaving less technologically advanced regions struggling to keep pace. Jobs that were once the backbone of middle-class economies, such as logistics, customer service, and even creative work, could be increasingly automated, leaving millions without stable employment or meaningful opportunities. The automation of complex sectors like law, medicine, and finance may widen this divide further. Large organizations that can afford cutting-edge AI systems may outcompete smaller businesses, monopolizing markets and driving smaller players out of the economy. Local economies may shrink as AI-driven global supply chains prioritize efficiency over regional needs, leaving communities vulnerable to unemployment and economic stagnation. Even as AI creates new opportunities, access to them may be uneven. Advanced training in AI, programming, data analytics, and human-machine collaboration will likely become prerequisites for high-paying roles, favoring wealthier individuals and nations. Education systems in under-resourced regions may struggle to adapt quickly, further entrenching inequality. The social consequences of this economic divide could be severe. Growing disparities may foster political unrest, migration pressures, and heightened tensions between AI-rich and AI-poor nations. Economic stress combined with technological exclusion could exacerbate feelings of disconnection, fear, and frustration, making societies more susceptible to instability and manipulation. In essence, AI could not only transform how we work and produce, but also fundamentally reshape global hierarchies, creating a world where opportunity is increasingly determined by access to technology rather than human potential alone. By 2030, artificial intelligence may play a profound yet potentially destructive role in how humans interact with the natural world. On one hand, they could optimize resource use and monitor environmental changes with unparalleled precision. On the other, the technologies themselves, data centers, server farms, and AI-driven industrial processes, demand massive amounts of energy, contributing to greenhouse gas emissions and worsening climate change. As industries increasingly rely on AI to drive efficiency and maximize production, the pressure on natural resources could intensify. AI algorithms might prioritize short-term gains like boosting agricultural yield or extracting minerals, without accounting for long-term environmental costs. Forests could be cleared faster, oceans overfished, and water supplies diverted to feed AI-optimized production systems, accelerating ecosystem collapse. The rapid deployment of AI in energy-intensive sectors, such as cryptocurrency mining and automated manufacturing, could further strain global energy grids. Even renewable energy systems may struggle to meet the escalating demand, potentially causing regional energy shortages and reliance on fossil fuels during high consumption periods. Moreover, AI could alter global supply chains in ways that increase environmental risk. Automated logistics might prioritize speed and profit over sustainability, leading to increased emissions from shipping and transportation. AI-driven deforestation monitoring systems could exist, yet economic and political pressures may prevent timely intervention, creating a cycle where technology identifies damage but fails to prevent it. Environmental collapse triggered or accelerated by AI may also amplify human vulnerability. Rising sea levels, extreme weather, and disrupted food systems could disproportionately affect populations without access to advanced technology, widening global inequality. Those who benefit from AI-driven efficiencies may shield themselves, while the most vulnerable bear the brunt of environmental and societal instability. In this way, AI's potential to exacerbate environmental degradation presents a quiet but persistent threat, a slow, complex challenge that may shape the world's future in ways that are hard to reverse.